This season of Love, Death, and Robots might have been short, but it was packed to the gills with quality animation and delightfully violent science fiction insanity. Let's dig into a few things you might have missed, as well as just some fun trivia about your favorite segments. Director Jennifer Ya Nelson's Kill Team Kill is another in a long line of Love, Death, and Robots shorts about a team of military professionals encountering some form of high-tech or supernatural evil that typically decimates all or most of them. It's a pretty standard, enjoyable formula, but this one comes with a welcome twist. Our big bad is a massive robot bear that tears its enemies into ooey-gooey pieces. Nelson knows a thing or two about bears that can hand you your own ass. She directed Kung Fu Panda 2 and 3. Yes, I realize this is a silly detail, but it made me chuckle, so it's in here. Also, if there's a season 4, can we please get a little from this robot shark tease? We already got a ghost shark in season 1's Fish Night. Let's get some Robo-Shark action going on, guys. The bear, by the way, is called Project Barghest. Barghest is a creature from Northern English folklore that, per Encyclopedia Britannica, is, quote, a monstrous goblin dog with huge teeth and claws that appears only at night. Some have pointed out that Barghest was probably inspiration for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's famous Sherlock Holmes story, The Hound of the Baskervilles, as well as potentially the inspiration for Sirius Black's haunting dog form called the Grim in the Harry Potter books. Meanwhile, the other Mercs vs. Crazy Bloodlust monster short in this collection, In Vaulted Halls Entombed, was directed by Jerome Chin, and he has his own connection to the material. While this is his second credited directorial effort after season 1's Lucky 13, he's been working in VFX since the early 90s and was even the senior visual effects supervisor for Beowulf, which, while not the nicest thing to look at, was at least one step away from the horrors of the Polar Express. Dude was also in the same position on Final Fantasy X. He knows his photorealistic CGI, and damn, man, like, In Vaulted Halls Entombed really speaks to that. Like, that is some quality animation. But more importantly, and most of you probably noticed this, but it must be said, this one features Cthulhu. Like, it's not called Cthulhu, in the credits it's Bound God, but look, that thing, that's the greatest of the great old ones himself. And considering that Cthulhu is often depicted as being trapped in some sort of tomb, calling psychically out to potential worshippers who might one day release him unto the cosmos once more, yeah man, freaking Cthulhu. You'll love to see it. And just to add a cherry on top, our sole survivor cuts out her own eyes with the knife used to attack her so that she might not come under the bound god's control. But c'est la vie, it's gonna take more than that to stop this eldritch horror, and if you listen closely, she is speaking in an alien language, suggesting she is under his control and will probably seek out more to join the ranks of the bound god. For those of you who are just tuning in this season and haven't checked out the previous two, you might have missed that Season 3 features the show's first full-fledged sequel in the form of 3 Robots Exit Strategies, the debut episode this season, which features the return of our tourist robot heroes from way back in Season 1, Episode 2. The sequel was directed by Patrick Osborne, who notably also co-directed the Disney Plus special Happier Than Ever, A Love Letter to Los Angeles. This is his first episode of Love, Death, and Robots, however, with the original iteration of 3 Robots directed by Victor Maldonado and Alfredo Torres, who directed 2 other episodes of Season 1, When the Yogurt Took Over and Alternate Histories. All 4 of these stories were based on a story or written by noted sci-fi author John Scalzi. Side note, did you know that Philip Gelatt was the screenwriter for the first 3 Robots? Dude recently had his animated epic The Spine of Night debut on Shudder. That flick co-stars Joe Mangianello, who is also the star of In Vaulted Halls Entombed, one of 25 episodes written by Gelatt. Another returning character from Season 1 who shows up at the tail end of 3 Robots Exit Strategies is the Talking Cat. He's once again voiced by Chris Parnell.
I've got a tattoo here that fully illustrates my point.
And we get confirmation, after it's suggested in that first season episode, that yes, cats are inevitably the only creatures able to survive the apocalypse after climate change wipes out the human race. Sure, they're cats, given opposable thumbs and the ability to speak, but still, in the end we see they are now in charge of the Mars colony, having presumably been the only ones to escape, or maybe having seized control from the last remaining humans. Either way, seems like the cats are doing mighty well for themselves. unlike this poor bird. And hey, in what year does the end of humanity happen? Well, based on this time code, during the launch of the cats and maybe a couple humans into space, it's 2025. Yikes. Three Robots has been noted as being pretty openly political, even compared to most other politically overt episodes. We get a liberal tears gag over at the Doomsday Prepper base, where those same right-wing preppers run afoul of, well, their own need for isolation. Yeah, boys, turns out healthcare is pretty important. There's also quite a few hints at this particular group's innate need for privacy and conflict. This is TJ's chair, for example. TJ looking great, by the way. Love the Preppers Last Longer patch. And this map shows other strongholds, including the Wolves compound that has apparently been successfully raided. This sad sack was reading Gun Lover magazine on the John while he was shot, despite having a massive Gatling gun next to him for protection. Meanwhile, a bunch of libertarian tech billionaires made their base for a better tomorrow atop an old oil rig, which again, this is about climate change, so pretty on the nose right there. And they were inevitably taken out by their trusted AI turning on them. Beyond preppers and billionaires, various politicians hoping for a new world order hid underground. However, they didn't have the citizenry necessary to keep everything running, and the supposedly self-sustaining hydroponic system for fresh crops went down, and they wound up eating each other. And thanks to that final whoopsie, all of the names in the hat for the extreme democracy election is just the same guy, Steve, the Secretary of Agriculture, who, well, was, kind of messed things up for everybody. Looking closely, his full name is Dr. Stephen T. Millerdorf, and this pretty mug right here, it looks like it might be series creator and producer Tim Miller, who is also the director of Deadpool and Terminator Dark Fate. Pretty sure it's him. It's hard to tell. He has hair, which is weird for Tim Miller. Speaking of Terminator, this is a reference to T2, right? And when our Robo-Pals are leaving the seastead, KVRC has this exchange with Alina, the rogue AI.
So long, Elena, and thanks for all the fish!
Choke on it, Skin Bucket.
This is a not-so-subtle nod to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, wherein the whales of planet Earth leave us behind with that same message shortly before the Earth is destroyed by alien bureaucracy. In Night of the Many Dead, there are some generic political gags, but one is a little more specific than the rest. We have a bunch of right-wingers unable to escape due to the wall they wanted built, and when they attempt to climb it, well, it's a cheap gag, but it's pretty good. This is also an episode where the lesson is our own insignificance. Yay! There's also this hell sign at a Shell gas station that also inexplicably sells X-rated toys, DVDs, and snacks, which gotta go by there sometime. Then there's this neighborhood, which might be a reference to the opening of 2004's Dawn of the Dead. That's a bit of a iffy one, but yeah, that's what I thought of. If you look closely here, the Pope-mobile is being used to fend off the zombies, and then there's this relatable FedEx truck following a retrofitted recycling truck. Now, easily my favorite segment of Season 3, and possibly the whole series, is Hibaro, which everybody's calling Jabaro. I feel like it's probably Hibaro, because it's Puerto Rican. I'm not a language expert, but I'm gonna say Hibaro. The tale of a deaf conquistador who is seemingly immune to the call of a siren living in a lake, but whom we quickly discover is just as susceptible to lust and greed as any other human being. The story is pretty straightforward on the surface. A bunch of conquistadors are out and about, seemingly searching for the siren, who has presumably taken out quite a few travelers, or they're just looking for some of that sweet gold. Note that the horses are decked out in noisy metallic treasures, suggesting there's maybe some baiting going on, but again, they could just be really ecstatic about shiny stuff. Then Hibaro takes a gold scale from the lake, giving us an early hint to his fate when he is obviously looking to keep it for himself. The siren calls for them during a blessing ceremony that doesn't really seem to help too much. They all go mad and rave their way into the lake, and well, all die. Save for Hibaro, who, being deaf, cannot hear the siren's call. A sort of game of seduction occurs wherein the siren allows for the possibility of some whacked-out romance, but alas, we men, we do love our shiny things. He knocks her down, steals all the treasure from her body, and proceeds to get out of Dodge. That's my really PG way of explaining what just happened. Only for what seems to be the siren's blood to heal Hibaro's deafness, allowing the siren to pull him into the bloody lake with her. There's several interpretations to be had with this one, with the central duo representing toxic relationships, greed, and colonialism. Notably, anytime even the slightest piece of jewelry is taken from her body, she bleeds, telling us visually that these are her riches, those of the land that the conquistadors are attempting to pillage. Anywho, to ensure I hadn't missed anything obvious, I did what I usually do. I double-checked with Reddit, because I am first and foremost a scholar. There I found a great explanation for our deaf conquistador's titular name, per Redditor Imaginary Glade 7400. Jibaro is a Puerto Rican word referring to traditional self-sustaining farmers who worked with the land, an ironic name given to the greedy conquistador who steals from the land for his own gain as opposed to working with the land. Jibaro is also covered in tattoos, and one of them is a severed hand with an eye in the center of the palm. Now, like the rest of Jibaro, this could mean a lot of things, but it could be the Hamsa, which I think I'm saying right. I suck at this part of my job. I know this. Commenters, you don't need to waste time. I'm a bad guy. I'm a bad guy. The Hamsa, a symbol common in North Africa and the Middle East. It was used in the Middle Ages as a means of warding off the evil eye, which in Christian mythology came from within. Considering that Jibaro has innate darkness, this, would make sense, and also suggest maybe that tattoo isn't doing a whole heck of a lot. There are also these eyes drawn on the trees, perhaps suggesting a more direct demonic presence within the woods. Also, where the heck is this supposed to be? These flowers are really trippy. Maybe it's the same planet as Bad Traveling. The 1999 Hugo Award for Best Short Story, The Very Pulse of the Machine, was adapted here for the segment entitled The Very Pulse of the Machine. That story was written by Michael Swanwick for his collection Tales of Old Earth, and if you pay attention, you'll see this book added in as tribute, which also works to show that Burton is a poetry enthusiast, adding weight to the idea of this all being in Kivelson's head, since Io itself has a knowledge of poetry. Kivelson? Kivelson. I'm gonna say Kivelson.
This is Martha Kivelson.
Good job!
Oh, and this isn't the first Swanwick story to be adapted for the show. Season 1's Ice Age was even adapted from another story in Tales of Old Earth. Speaking of which, while Kivelson is tripping out during her journey across the surface of Io, a voice seemingly from the planet itself recites this line from William Wordsworth's She Was a Phantom of Delight.
And now I see with eye serene the very pulse of the machine.
Now, this is also taken directly from the book, but yeah, whatever. We ain't book readers around these parts, so whatevs, fam.
Poetry now? Oh, I thought I told you to shut up.
We see the Eye of Jupiter not only during the main body of the episode, but also at the very end, looking down on Io as it beckons a ship to its surface. There's also this shot, and basically what I'm getting at here is, hot dang, there be lots of eyeball imagery in this here short film. By the by, Martha Kivelson is quite the specific name, and while I don't think it's ever been confirmed since appearing in the initial story, this appears to be a reference to planetary scientist Margaret G. Kivelson, whose research was focused on, wait for it, Jupiter's Galilean moons, of which Io is one. Speaking of highly specific names, I can't be the only one who had to pause for a moment when, in Swarm, directed by series creator Tim Miller, we're introduced to characters Afriel and Dr. Galina Murney. Well, per my favorite digital publication, Who's Your Baby, Afriel is a Hebrew name meaning angel of youth, encouraging newness and exploration, offering guidance to those who dare new thoughts. Too bad exploration sometimes means dooming humanity and incurring the wrath of a parasitic alien being. Womp womp. Galina is a mermaid in Greek mythology known as the goddess of calm seas, and of course, the way our characters move is indicative of swimming in water. And finally, let's round this out with a look at some of the notable actors and who they played in the series. Minus Chris Parnell as a cat. In David Fincher's entry Bad Traveling, prolific voice actor and sometimes Joker Troy Baker plays rightfully conspiratorial ship captain Torres. Blade Runner 2049, Station 11, and Terminator Dark Fate actress Mackenzie Davis stars in The Very Pulse of the Machine as Kiverson, while Kill Team Kill stars Joel McHale, Seth Green, Gabriel Luna, and who also was in Terminator Dark Fate, English Spike Spiegel himself, Steve Blum, and Andrew Kishino, a prolific voice actor whose credits include originating Saw Gerrera in Clone Wars. Swarm stars Rosario freaking Dawson and Jason George, aka Ben Warren in Grey's Anatomy. Mason's Rats stars Craig Ferguson and the guest himself, Dan Stevens, pulling double duty. In addition to Joe Mangianello, In Vaulted Halls Entombed features professional boomerang-based criminal Jai Courtney, The Walking Dead's very own Christian Serratos, and voice actor Deborah Wilson, who voiced Amanda Waller in the upcoming Suicide Squad video game. Which really doesn't mean a whole lot, I guess, but, you know, it's cool to me. She's in a thing with Jai Courtney, you know. Got Amanda Waller, got your Boomerang, got your Deathstroke. And yeah, if you'd like a deeper dive into the series, maybe, I don't know, what can we do that's cool with kids these days? A tier list? Freaking LDR tier list? Let's do it. Say you want that so a bunch of robots can use it as evidence of humanity's meaninglessness in our rapidly approaching post-apocalyptic future.